Hello, it's Jim from JetsonHacks.com. On today's show, we are building the Waveshare JetBot.
JetBot, happy little JetBot, 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 go! JetBot, JetBot, happy little JetBot, 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 everywhere he goes. JetBot, JetBot, happy little JetBot, 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 go!
There are several resources to help you in your JetBot build. The Waveshare JetBot wiki will help walk you through the build. And then make sure to check out jetbot.org for everything JetBot. For everything Jetson, visit the NVIDIA Jetson Developers Forum. Of course, JetsonHacks.com is one place to check out also. But you already know that. Let's get started on our build. Let's open up the JetBot package and take a look inside. Here's the JetBot package and the NVIDIA Jetson Nano Developer Kit that we are going to install. We'll open up the box and then start unpacking. Find the instruction manual and open it up to the packing list. Compare the contents to what you received. The instruction manual also has quick build instructions. Here's a pro builder tip. Place all of the screws, nuts, and standoffs into a container. That way they don't roll off the build table. Your vacuum cleaner will thank you. Step 1 is to install the motors in the chassis. Remove the motors from their package. Take one of the motors and install it on one side of the chassis. There are holes drilled into the chassis to locate the motor shaft and mounting screws. Insert two M3x25 machine screws and place two M3 nuts on the back of each screw. Then snug down each nut. The motor housings are made of plastic. Do not over-tighten the screws. Repeat the process for the other motor. Remove the Wi-Fi card with the antenna leads and antenna mounts from its package. Turn over the chassis. And thread the antenna leads through the rear center hole. Turn the chassis over. Then remove the retaining nut and lock washer from one of the antenna mounts. Insert the antenna mount through the hole in the chassis. Add the lock washer and the retaining nut. Tighten the nut with the supplied wrench. And then repeat with the second antenna lead on the other side. If one of the antenna leads detaches from the Wi-Fi card, be careful when you reattach it. The connection is delicate. Use only finger pressure to reattach it. Next, we install 4 M3x4 standoffs to the chassis. Let's install the standoffs for the Jetson. Here are the mounting holes for the Jetson Nano standoffs. Mount the M2.5 by 25 millimeter standoff with a M2.5 millimeter machine screw. Then attach the other 3 standoffs. Use a screwdriver to make sure that the screw is fully seated. However, do not over-tighten. The PCB is made of fiberglass and is delicate. Let's install JetBot sensor. On this build, I need to punch out this little hole. The acrylic wasn't cut all the way through. Using a small screwdriver, I just pressed down and it came out pretty easily. Next, remove the protective paper from the acrylic. The acrylic is sandwiched between the camera and the mounting bracket. Use 2 M2 by 8 machine screws with M2 backing nuts to attach the camera to the mounting bracket. Again, the materials are delicate. Do not over-tighten the screws. I had an issue with the next part of the build. I had to tap threads into the camera mounting bracket. This is a 2.5 millimeter tap. There was an appropriate sized hole in the mounting bracket, but there were no threads to accept the thumb screw. Attach the camera mount to the mounting base using 2 2.5 millimeter thumb screws. Make sure that the ribbon cable faces away from the base. Next, attach the camera mount to the chassis. Use 2 M2 by 5 machine screws. Before mounting the power board, make sure that the Wi-Fi card is on the right side of the chassis. Also, do not let the antenna leads get pinched between the standoffs and the power board. Line up the power board with the standoffs and attach with 4 M3 by 6 screws. Next, we install the batteries. Pay careful attention to the polarity on the batteries, and make sure they match the markings on the battery holder when you insert them. Now we prepare the bottom of the chassis. There are 2 caster wheels that go on the bottom of the chassis. The attaching screws are located on the caster itself. You'll need to unscrew these. And then attach the caster to the bottom chassis plate. The plate is symmetrical. You don't have to worry if you're attaching to the top or the bottom. Make sure that the caster spins freely. Then attach the other caster. Time to wire up the motors. Flip the chassis over. And plug in the motor wires. There's a tang on the connector. You can only insert it one way. Use the connector closest to the given motor. Then do the other motor. Let's close off the chassis. The cover is held in place by 4 M3x6 machine screws. Let's put some wheels on this puppy and install the Jetson Nano. We put on the 2 wheels and secure each one of them with a KA2x15 screw. Let's pull the Jetson out of its box and take it out of its protective wrapper. I did this build a little bit backwards. You should attach the camera ribbon connector to the Jetson before attaching the Jetson Nano to the chassis. Attach the Jetson Nano to the power board standoffs using 4 M 2.5 by 5 mm screws. Lift up on the CSI camera retainer clip. Be careful as it is very delicate and easily broken. We are using the connector located towards the center of the board. As I said before, you should do that before installing the Jetson. Next, we insert the ribbon cable. Make sure that the blue stripe is facing away from the board. Make sure that the ribbon cable seats correctly, then press down on the retaining clip. The slot to install the Wi-Fi card is located underneath the Jetson module. To remove the Jetson module, there are 2 screws. Remove the 2 screws. Two clips hold the Jetson module in place. Pull back on the clips with your thumbnails. The module will pop up. Then you can remove the module. When you look on the underside of the module, you can see the SD card reader. Remove the retaining screw for the M2 key E slot. Notice the card orientation. Insert the card into the slot. Put it at a little bit of an angle, that will help. And make sure it seats correctly. And then secure the card with the retaining screw. Now we reinstall the Jetson module. Insert it back into the slot at about a 45-degree angle. Once the card is seated, press it down and the retaining clips will catch it. Then reinstall the 2 retaining screws. We're in the home stretch. Let's install the fan. Remove the fan and screws from the package. Align the fan with the mounting holes on the Jetson heatsink. Attach the fan with the 4 supplied screws. Route the fan wiring. And then plug the wiring into the fan control header. The fan control header is located directly behind the Ethernet connector. Attach the power board to the Jetson. The red wires should be facing outboard. Make sure that the connector seats properly. Then connect the other side to the Jetson. The red wires will face inboard. Line it up with pin 1. Again, make sure that the connector is seated properly. Make sure to double check the wiring. If wired incorrectly, bad things could happen. It's antenna time. Last but not least, we install the antennas. Installation complete. Remember to remove the lens cap from the camera before use. You will get better images that way. You should have some extra parts when you're done. Waveshare was very generous with us. One final note. You need to plug in the supplied power supply to the power distribution board for about 15 minutes. Plugged into the wall, of course. This step needs to be taken even if the batteries are fully charged. This will activate the power distribution board.
Jetbot, jetbot, happy little jetbot, 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 go. Jetbot, jetbot, happy little jetbot, jetbot.